Boosie's name is blazing through the streets right now, and not in a good way. Word is, he might have made the call that sealed Duke the jeweler's fate. The same blocks he once bragged about running, they don't even want him showing his face there anymore. He already got checked once, and now the whispers are getting louder. If he steps back in that hood, it might not end with words. It could end ugly. Real ugly. But here's where it gets even wilder. Boosie ain't moving alone. He's tied in deep with that whole mob tie circle. The same crew that's been wrapped up in more than a few street mysteries. And what's got people really on edge is the pattern. The setup. The storylines that keep replaying. Duke the jeweler lost his life the exact same way Takeoff did. Both gone right after being seen around the same circle. Two tragedies. One chilling blueprint. One of those infamous late night dice games. The kind people whisper about but never fully trust is where it all went down. That's what's got everyone asking the million-dollar question. Did Boosie really line Duke up? Or is he just a face being used to take the fall for something much bigger? Because Duke's death didn't feel random. It felt cold, strategic, like someone wanted to make an example out of him. Before diving into the twisted details, let's rewind to how that night unfolded. Duke showed up thinking he was among friends, shoulder to shoulder with people he believed had his back. But behind the laughs and handshakes, there were signals being exchanged, quiet codes flying over a table full of loaded dice. And let's be clear, Duke wasn't just some random name in the crowd. He was self-made, built from hustle and grit, no shortcuts. His custom jewelry line was blowing up in the rap world, not just among up-and-comers, but with major names wearing his pieces. When he left Chicago for Houston, it wasn't a party. It was business. Boosie had reached out, talking about custom designs. Duke came ready, duffel bag stacked with over $1 million worth of jewelry, his life's work in that bag. What he didn't know was that trip would be his last. And that same duffel bag, it would later resurface somewhere nobody could have predicted. But before that twist, we need to go back to the dice table, where the setup allegedly began. Word on the street says this wasn't some casual game for fun. It was a trap from the jump. And it's not just a talk either. Whack 100, someone deep in the game, didn't sugarcoat it. He said, if you ever get invited to a dice game in Houston, especially one tied to J. Prince, run. Because your odds of leaving with your cash or your life are slim. According to Whack, these weren't games at all. They were stage operations, setups disguised as fun nights out. The dice? Rigged. Every roll designed so only J. Prince Jr. and his mob ties crew walked away winning. Basically, a robbery with a smile. But this time, someone messed up big. Those rigged dice ended up in Duke's hands, and suddenly, he couldn't stop winning. 3 guys usually rotated the dice, keeping control. But when Duke got his turn, he started cooking back-to-back wins, stacking hundreds in plain sight. The system broke down right there at the table, and Duke was eating off their plate. And he wasn't low-key about it either. Duke pulled out his phone, recording himself, laughing, flexing, like he was making his own victory montage. But when those videos surfaced later, fans started noticing the background. The side eyes, the whispers, the hand signals. It didn't look like a celebration anymore. It looked like tension. Then came the part that made everyone's stomach drop. Word is, J. Prince takes a 30% cut off every pot in those games. So when Duke kept winning, he wasn't just flexing. He was cutting into the boss's pocket, live and direct. That kind of disrespect doesn't get shrugged off. Duke was still filming, still smiling, not realizing he might have just signed his own death sentence. And when people slowed down the clips, they noticed something chilling, Boosie leaning back, flashing what looked like a signal to his nephew. A moment later, another man taps that nephew on the shoulder. The whole room freezes. Duke's still grinning, rolling dice, but you can feel it. The air shifts. The play's been called. Moments later, Duke heads to the parking lot, alone, no backup, no protection. Just him, a dark Houston night, and a duffel bag worth millions. Picture it. 1 minute he's lit winning big, carrying everything he worked for. The next, gunshots echo through the lot. And here's where things stop adding up. Why would Boosie, a millionaire who knows how deadly these games can get, invite someone carrying millions in jewels with no security? That's not an oversight. That's a setup. And where was Jay Prince Jr. as security? A high-stakes game with that kind of money and nobody guarding the exits? Doesn't make sense. When cops arrived, the story they were given was robbery gone wrong. But something was off. Duke was gone, lying in a pool of blood, but every heavy gold and diamond chain was still around his neck. Think about that. What kind of robber pulls a trigger and leaves behind tens of thousands in jewelry? Those weren't random pieces either. They were the same ones he'd worn at Boosie's concert hours earlier. But the real shocker? That duffel bag full of million-dollar jewelry. Gone. Vanished. Until police traced it straight back to Boosie's house. Whether Duke handed it off for safekeeping, or Boosie ended up with it after the fact, nobody knows. But one thing's for sure, the bag made a home. Duke didn't. And then came Boosie's biggest mistake. He jumped on Instagram Live, trying to spin the story. Called it a random robbery. Claimed he barely knew Duke. Said Duke left the game and disappeared. But come on, if they weren't tight, why was Duke invited to a private dice game with Boosie's circle? And why would he fly into Houston with over $1 million in jewelry unless Boosie himself promised a deal? It doesn't add up. It looks calculated. Like Duke was lured in, then left for dead. And when Boosie hit that live, his face said it all. He wasn't calm. He wasn't confident. He looked pale, nervous, like a man carrying a secret he couldn't bury. By then, the internet wasn't buying a word of it. The more Boosie spoke, the more holes showed in his story. Every clip, every interview, every facial expression only fueled the fire. And when those clips hit social media, the comment sections went crazy, thousands of people saying the same thing. Boosie knows more than he's saying. One viral comment cut right to the core. Boosie seems to know everything Duke did before and after, almost like he was watching him. That line exploded online because it echoed exactly what everyone had been whispering. The suspicion wasn't new. It was confirmation. And the moment it went viral, the pressure hit Boosie like a tidal wave. The internet turned up the heat so much that the feds had to get involved. Boosie was already on their radar over unrelated gun charges. But once Duke's case started circling back to his name, it kicked off an entirely new federal investigation. And the deeper they dug, the uglier it got. Red flags started popping up everywhere. The first one came from Duke's phone records. Its last ping before going completely dark wasn't from a random street corner. It came from inside Boosie's own studio. Unless cell phones suddenly learned to teleport, that means someone in Boosie's circle had that phone in their hands after Duke's death. That's not sloppy. That's bold. The kind of move you only make if you think you're untouchable, too connected, and smarter than the feds. Then came the real bombshell, a forensic sweep of Duke's rental car. And when the results came back, the prints belonged to Boosie's cousin and nephew. Suddenly, that quiet hand signal across the dice table didn't look innocent anymore. It looked like the moment Duke's fate was sealed. But the darkest twist came when a witness finally spoke up with details too heavy to ignore. They said they were outside, smoking, when they saw Duke walking toward his rental car. Everything seemed calm until Boosie's nephew suddenly appeared, like he'd been waiting in the shadows for the signal. The witness claimed Duke must have sensed danger closing in because he allegedly swung first, realized it was fight or die, but he never stood a chance. Within seconds, gunshots echoed through the night, and Duke dropped lifeless right there on the pavement. Even worse, the witness swore there was no robbery, no struggle over chains, no attempt to take anything. It wasn't about money or jewelry. It was about silence. Duke broke the one unspoken rule. He beat a rigged system in front of the people who ran it. And in that world, that's not just a loss. That's unforgivable. And the truth is, deep down, Boosie knows exactly what happened that night. The streets know it. The fans know it. The feds know it. He can spin, deny, and keep throwing smoke screens all he wants. But it's over. The neighborhoods don't trust him. The feds are circling tighter every day. And there he sits, across from Vlad, shades on, voice shaking, looking like a man who can already feel the walls closing in. Thank you for watching. If this story had you locked in, make sure to drop a comment, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people see what's really happened behind the scenes. And don't forget, click one of the boxes on your screen to check out more stories just like this one.